Chris and Jeremy, we're here to speak to you guys about why we're speaking at Swin Mission Casino here at Anacortes. We want to get our word out about mental health and seeking counseling when we need it for all first responders, no matter who you are with trauma. What do you?
You know, for me, I couldn't find somebody to talk to when I was going through my shooting and my other PTSD related events. So that's why a conference like this is so important, and we're so thankful to be invited here as keynote speakers for the First Responder Conference. Thank you so much, Sean Thomas. We really appreciate you having us here. You've treated us amazing. We can't say thank you enough.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Thank you to everyone else around here. I mean, this has been a great experience, and we can't wait, hopefully, to work with you guys some more.
So my name is Jeremy Wood. I'm one half of Brothers in Healing. I do Brothers in Healing with my coworker Chris, and we started this foundation so we could connect with other people. And it's so important because you're not alone, and for years I suffered in silence because I didn't have anybody to reach out and talk to in law enforcement as a first responder. So this conference means the world not only to me, but to others who are also suffering. We're not alone. My life forever changed. I was a school resource officer at Cedar Crest Middle School, and I woke up one day, started my patrol car, logged in, saw on the computer that we had a standoff situation, a hostage situation, at a residence directly across from Totem Middle School. And my coworker at the time, he was a school resource officer there, and I called him and I said, "Hey Chuck, we got a situation." Now I was on our TAC team at the time. I'm being called out. You got to put your school in lockdown because it's right across the street, and I got to drive to Taco Bell. So he said, "Oh yeah, right, Woody. You're always messing with me." And to be upfront and honest with you, I do have to own that. I'm the kind of guy that goes to the patrol office while the cars have the AC on, full blast, trying to cool off. My key opens all their car, I get in there, I turn the heat on for them, so when they come out. So I'm that a-hole, so I will own that. Anyway, he didn't believe me at first, and I said, "Hey Chuck, listen, I'm not playing around here. I'm dead serious, I gotta go." So I lived in Bothell at the time, and I had a take-home car because it had my TAC gear in it, right? And, well, so-called TAC gear, we'll get into that in a little bit. But I ran code from Bothell to Marysville, and ended up at this Taco Bell right here in the parking lot. And there's the Totem Middle School up there on the left, and the arrow points to the suspect's house. Now, we had just started our tactical team. We weren't even SWAT certified, but they needed some kind of a team to help out with these high-risk narcotic search warrants that we were serving because they didn't meet the criteria for a SWAT call-out. So anyway, they gave us these rifles, the ARs, AR-15, long barrel ones, and they were like, "Hey, who's interested in kind of, what position are you guys interested in?" Well, I grew up hunting, and I like rifles, so I'm like, well, I'm interested in being, the sniper kind of thing. So I got there, and they're like, "Hey, Woody, you take your long gun, and you go set up. Here's the house again," and they gave me information that the suspect who had taken his girlfriend hostage was planning a murder-suicide. And patrol had been out dealing with him for quite some time. Now, for anybody who's a school resource officer, you've learned real quickly that you dress for being a school resource officer because you're not out in the inclement weather, per se. So all I had on was just the basics. It was in February, it was cold out, it was sunshiny. So I walked down the alley and I set up like a good little soldier. And I find this carport here, and there's a car that's blocking me. It was like a Suzu Rodeo or something. So I lay down on that concrete right there, and it felt like a sheet of ice. So I started dealing with a couple issues. How cold it was, the concrete. My vest was just a standard patrol vest. My vantage point, he's up above, I'm down below, and I think I've got some good concealment up until the media arrives on scene. And I remember hearing this noise, and I turn around, and this idiot is putting up a tripod with a camera on it, a remote control, and then he backs off and this thing, he's giving away my position. So I'm like radioing to the commander or whatever, cut this guy's power because I don't want to see him where I'm at, kind of thing. So another issue I started dealing with that I hadn't thought of before was here's my AR. It's just a standard AR, same magazine, everything there. I had an issue with the iron sights on the AR. And here's a photo of what I was looking through. And the problem with the AR, the iron sight there, is it blocks out too much. It just, so I'm coming off my sight, back on it, off, back. I can never get a good cheek weld on there. And I'm starting to get frustrated. There's no bipod, so I'm laying on my elbows the entire time. But I've always prided myself on pushing past pain, and I've always prided myself on having that mental toughness. And I started not having that so much. The sun started glaring off that window, and I started feeling like, hey, I can't even see in this window. My position is horrible. He can see me, but I can't. I'm not doing anything here. My fingers are extremely cold. I have no gloves on. I start shaking, and because of the cold, so I tried to work through that. And it was like just drawing a line, and I can see the sunshine, and I get a little sloppy with the sunlight, and I'm thinking to myself, hey, it's okay, just expose yourself a little bit, put your trigger finger out in that sunshine and warm it up so you can feel. And I did, and it was like a godsend to me. And then I started dealing with, hey, you're losing that mental toughness. You gotta get back, and you gotta be solid here. You have a job to do. So while I'm laying there and beating myself up over getting sloppy with the sunlight, the hostage escapes, and she comes down and she says, he's going to force the cops to shoot you guys. He's armed with an AK-47, banana clip, and it's got a scope on it. And I'm like, ruh-roh. Because I know that will go through my vest, and I know it's going to go through the wheel well that I thought I had some good concealment on. So I'm like, boy. Now, prior to this, any volunteers to bring a throw phone up to the front door? Oh, there's Woody. Oh yeah, right here, coach, put me in, right? So I did. Well, the shield we had, it would have gone through the shield as well. So this wasn't my time yet, basically, because if you wanted to take us, you could have. Anyway, the doubts start to creep in about my rifle, my gear, my ability. I start second guessing myself. And I'm like, you signed up for this, come on, push through it. So I say, hey, you got to win this, what are you going to do? So I say, okay, he's got a scoped rifle, I got iron sights, he's got better position, I got to change my position. So I said I need my position changed, and I asked like so many times, and finally like, we'll get to you in a minute, Woody, kind of thing, and I basically on the radio said, I'm useless here, put me in another spot. So, new location, it's directly across the street, and it was like, I was in heaven. It was an elderly lady, lives alone, and what do elderly people have cranked? The heat. Oh my God! I was like, I will effing sit here all day long now. I go in, she has one simple request, just don't let my cats out. And I'm not really a cat person, I'm more of a dog person. But every time I go on a call, it's like the cats always like come around me, and I pet them, and they rub up on me and scratch my uniform and everything. Well, this day, these cats sensed my energy, because there was like 4 of them. They came out and they looked at me and they're like, disappeared. And I should have known right then and there, this is gonna, turn ugly. Anyway, I grabbed the couch, I blade it off, angle it off away from the window, and I get my knees down in the couch, and I'm like, oh, this is great. I've got my rifle rested on the back of the couch, and I'm like, who needs a bipod? This is great, right? So I tell, they send me in there with another patrol guy, and I'm thinking that we're on the same page, and I say to the patrol guy, hey, I need you to slowly adjust those blinds so that I can see out of it. And I'm like almost directly across from the suspect now. So in my mind, he's gonna go over there like a good little, sniper's tool for me, and just slowly open the blinds and slowly, nope. Walks up, he little crawls over there, grabs the thing, boom! The blinds go up, right? And bam, bam, they hit the window, and you can kind of see the flex of the window. Well, that gave away our position. So here's the stairway that I'm going to talk about. On the left is my view, and you can see that little tiny section of hallway I have where the plants aren't there. The TAC team is on the opposite side, and that's their view, looking at the stairway going up. So things start to get real for me. Suspect appears, and he's got the SKS rifle underneath his chin. And I'm like, geez, okay, I didn't see that one coming, but you got this. If he starts popping off rounds, you know what to do. I can't see with my rifle post, it's blocking him, I can't see his hands. My heart rate increases, I'm trying to breathe like you're supposed to do, the tactical breathing. And it's working a little bit. He runs back up the stairs, and I'm like, holy crap, okay? Get ready, so I'm working on my breathing, and he reappears, and he starts scouting out the team. And I see him glance over, and he kind of looks up to where I'm at. And I'm like, oh yeah, I know you know where I'm at. And the guy who was with in the room is like, hey, you gonna take him? You gonna take him? You gonna shoot him? And I'm playing back in my head. Do I just take him now, or do I wait a little bit? How is this going to play out? You're thinking of all this stuff, but you're supposed to be calm, cool, and collected, right? I mean, that's what we are, right? We're superheroes. So he reappears, he looks at me, and he runs back up the stairs, and bam! He cranks off a round. And I'm like, thank God, he shot himself. And I can see this, debris or mist is what I thought it was. But then I hear his moaning, and I realize, nah, he didn't shoot himself in the head. No way, with the SKS round would he be talking. And I realize this isn't over. So now my adrenaline emotions all get stirred right back up, and I realize that, hey, I got to get my breathing and things under control again. I look over and I see my coworker Nate. He's starting to get sucked up because, of course, they're putting over the radio. Suspect went down the stairway, and it's like he's like this moth to this flame. And I'm like, no, man, you have no cover, no concealment. I look a little bit further, and much to my surprise, they've allowed the mayor to come into the hot zone area, and the mayor's in his suit, yakking it up, laughing, and he's right on the street there. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And then it happens. My coworker that I was in the room with dove on the ground. To this day, I look back and I'm here. I would pass the polygraph on this. The bullets that came out of the empty bullets that came out of that SKS rifle went just like this. That slow. After the shooting, it's dead silent. And I fired 2 times, and I knew that I hit him. I tried for a headshot, I got him kind of right here, and I knew he was dead, I knew he was down, and the next thing I know, I hear the commander walking up the stairs. And he walks in the door, and he says, Jeremy, give me your rifle. I'm like, kind of like, well, this is my sword, I'm a samurai here, I don't just hand over my rifle to anybody, kind of thing. And I was irritated over the way he asked me for my rifle and didn't give 2 shits about me. I handed him the rifle. What do you do? They assigned this custody sergeant from our jail who was a peer support member, and he's in full uniform, he's working that day. And they set me in this room. And that arrow points to where the custody sergeant for our jail was sitting. And that's my view right there. And I'm looking over and I'm going like, why the hell am I in the interview room? What did I do wrong? I did what I was supposed to do. So I asked him questions. Can I go outside and get some fresh air? Hang on a minute. I don't know if that's a good idea right now. So I sat in this room, what felt like an eternity, feeling like maybe I had done something wrong. My emotions started getting stirred up. I went through 3 support team members. I was moved. One of the sergeants came by and said, what the hell is Woody doing in the interview room? Get him out of there. And I'm so thankful that he did that day because of the way that it made me feel being in there. I didn't click with the first 2 peer support members because Normally in the morning I was getting like a 4 or 5 shot of coffee, you know, Americano. And I was saying, hey, they're like, oh, what do you need? And I was like, hey, I need some coffee. And they're telling me things like, it's not a good idea. You shouldn't have caffeine right now. And I'm like, really? Like, I just capped somebody. Can I please get a freaking cup of coffee? But the third peer support member was one of our dispatchers. She's like an angel. Because she said, kids, what do you need? I said, Janice Lamoureux is her name. She still works for our city. I said, Janice, I need a hug. And she said, no problem. She gave me a hug and said, what else do you need? I said, I need a damn cup of coffee. She said, no problem, the coffee coming right up. And so we clicked. I couldn't make any other decisions other than I wanted the coffee. To the questions, I was just like, I don't know. I didn't feel like answering any more questions. They walked me out of another room, so I'm getting moved around in our PD, and they walked me by this room, and it's the girlfriend, the hostage. And she sees me, and she goes, is that him? Is that him? Is he the one who killed him? He didn't have to do that. And I'm thinking to myself, this is supposed to be my home, my territory. Why is she upstairs in the same vicinity as me? But I can hear her voice saying that. And so I start questioning myself. Did I really have to do that? You know, couldn't there have been another way? I start having this self-doubt that creeps in and the guilt that Chris talked about. I knew he was the bad guy. I knew I did the right thing. But I also had this heads, tails. The tails was, did it really have to go down that way? And then I kind of got angry. Like, why did he put me in this position? So they tell me, hey, so I can hear the helicopters over the PD. And commander says, hey, so you got to get out of town. The media's headed to your home. They want to try to get an interview with you. So you need to get out of town. You need to take your phone, or department-issued phone with you, and you need to answer it when we call. And so I leave. I head to the San Juans. I don't remember the drive. I had my wife at the time drive me there, and she was like, where are we going? I'm like, just head north. I don't know, kind of thing. So the city was like, here kid, take our credit card, and so, you know, get your room. So I go to check in, I hand the guy the card, and it's declined. Right? It's like F&A cotton. Yeah, the city didn't pay their bill. So, I whip out my Cabela's card, you know, and I'm like, I'll pay for my own room, you know, kind of thing. And I sit down for dinner, and the table I sit next to is two idiots talking about how they hate police, how one of them got pulled over, how stupid cops are, and I can just feel, you know, I'm Irish Norwegian, super laid back until a point, and I can just feel my Irish side start to kick in, and I'm just like, let's kick some ass, you know, kind of thing. And I was like, no, keep it calm. You know, you've been through enough already. And, you know, I couldn't finish my meal because I don't want to sit next to someone who hates police when, you know, I'm out there trying to put my life on the line for others. So I leave. I go in the hotel room, and like an idiot, I hit the TV on, and guess what comes on? Q13 News, and it's about the shooting. So I didn't get any sleep that night. I you know, tossed and turned. I remember my wife at the time would say, well, do you want to go, where do you want to go? I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I want. I don't know where I want to go. I end up, they had a swimming pool, and I was like, oh yeah, I grew up with a swimming pool from childhood. I lived with my grandparents for a while. And I was like, I grew up swimming just as soon as I could walk, so I hop in the pool. I'm like, oh, this is great. I start doing some laps, right? Get some exercise. And all of a sudden, pop, 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 pop. I'm like, holy shit. I get out of the pool. They're doing a remodel. It's a nail gun, okay? But I'm re-triggered all over again. And the flood of emotion that came over me, I was like, I don't want anything to do with the swimming pool. I end up in the steam room, and it's the first time, and I was in there alone, which, you know, like Chris said, I was afraid to cry prior to all this. But in the steam room, I just let it all out. And I sat there and I sobbed. Looking back, I was super dehydrated because being in the steam room and crying, we lost a lot of fluid. So I I get home, back, I stay there for 2 or 3 days, I get back home. I have a sense of time, I'm off. I don't know when I'm coming back to work. No one's calling me and saying, hey, you're gonna come back on this date, no communication. I'm at Starbucks, they had this music, you could make your own CDs and stuff, and so I'm going through and making these playlists, and my music was everything from, Lisa Loeb to, Linkin Park, all sorts of angry 1 minute, and then, the next song, these CDs were just horrible, because it was like a sweet, loving song to, shut up when I'm talking to you, it was just a train wreck of CDs. I still have them, I'm like, boy, you were really messed up, kid, So anyway, no one from my TAC team is reaching out to me. Nobody from the department is calling me, and I don't know why. I didn't know they had put a gag order on every single team member, do not contact Woody, and they told the patrol guys, do not contact him, do not talk about this. So no one's reaching out to me. So I'm feeling like, hey, they really don't care about me. A couple of months passed, no communication from the department. So I call him and I say, can somebody tell me something? And that commander that took my rifle away so abruptly, he says, think of it as a vacation, Jeremy. Well, really? Because if I'm going to go on vacation, oh, by the way, they told me I can't leave Washington State. So it's February, this is not a vacation. So 3 or 4 months pass, and that commander calls me, and I pick up the phone, hello, and he says, hey, good news, Jeremy. You're not being charged with murder. And I couldn't even respond back, and I'm like, because it hadn't really occurred to me that that was even a possibility. So when he said that, it was like reality, I guess, and it made me think, am I going to be sued civilly? And I started thinking about that side of things. And he says, hey, you got a psych exam set up by the PD, no explanation. So I didn't know if it was a fit for duty or a return to duty, and they said, hey, the paperwork's in your box. So now I got to go into the PD. I grabbed the paperwork out of my box, and I run to this guy who had been fired by our department 3 times, but nothing was documented on his performance evaluations, so he got his job back all 3 times. And anyway, he says, hey, what are you doing? I said, I got to go see a shrink, right? I never met with one before. And he says, oh, great. Well, he had gone through several fit for duty ones. I'm just a return to duty one. I didn't know what the difference was, but he's telling me, oh, good luck, kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, great. Not only do I have to drive down to freaking Seattle, now I got to go meet with the psychologist. Am I going to even come back to work? I don't know. I don't know anything about counseling at this time.
Hi, I'm Lisa Harrison. I'm with the Tukwila Police Department, and I'm in the training division. I think for too long we've had the mentality of just suck it up, you can deal with it, just shake it off, and it doesn't go away. I have friends that struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder, and watching them and their stories, it's very, very difficult to try to extend that olive branch when you don't understand fully what's going on. And I think it's time that we start taking care of ourselves, because we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to our families.
Now, as fate would have it, she loved cats, and she had 6 or 7 cats. I walk in the room, but this time they all come to greet me like normal. So I'm like, hey, that's a good sign, put out some good energy. I was able to talk to her about some things like, after the shooting, I would go out in a t-shirt and kind of mill around my yard out in the cold just to kind of push myself further. I would turn the shower to cold. And I was like, why am I doing this, And she's like, you're trying to heal. You're trying to show you that you're tough, kind of thing. And it was a really awesome experience. I was able to talk to her about the length of time, nobody reaching out to me. And she was so awesome. She was like, well, what do you need? What are your needs? And it was the first time that somebody actually asked me that. So I don't know if we have psychologists or psychiatrists in the audience today. You guys are like angels on earth. You really are. You gave me such hope when I had nothing. Overall, it was an awesome experience. So I leave going, hey, that felt really good to open up, because I was always taught by my father, what are you crying about? I'll give you something to cry about. So I learned at a very young age as a survival mechanism to suppress your emotions, right? You know, men don't cry. So I returned to work, and the first day back to work, the psychologist, she was like, well, what do you want? I said, I want to go back on patrol. Why? I said, I want to get right back on the horse. I want to pull my gun out. I want to prove to myself that I still got what it takes, that I'm not going to shy away from the possibility of getting into another shooting. She said, I like it. I like that warrior mindset that you have. Let's get you back on patrol. Plus, I didn't want to, okay, anybody who's worked in a middle school where they always ask you every single freaking day, you ever shot anybody? You ever shot anybody? It's like, I didn't feel like answering that like throughout the day. And then I also thought, shoot, well, what if I get, what if a prompting event happens where I'm triggered? I don't want to lose it, in the cafeteria. Plus, it was the only time at that time that I'd had my gun grabbed. So I was like, those little shits, I don't want to go back into that environment. I'll go on patrol, man. I'll get the real fellas, right? So anyway, several hot calls during the day. I'm feeling really good. And then the 911 call comes out. Adult male, feeling suicidal in the backyard of a residence, says he's going to force the cops to shoot him. Here we go again. Well, guess who happens to be in the area? This guy. So I'm first on scene. Little did I know the sergeant at the time was watching me. She was an outstanding supervisor. She said, Woody, you didn't hesitate one bit. That gun came out, you had it right up here, and you were giving them commands. One of the things that I do remember distinctly is reaching out, and we carried the SIGs, I think it's a 12-pound trigger pull, something like that. I remember seeing that hammer start to come back because he had the gun right here, Beretta 92 FS. And he went like this. Instead of just opening his hand and dropping the gun, he does one of these. And puts it out, and I'm like, my heart is like, it was an airsoft gun. So I was very thankful that I didn't end up in another shooting. But what it did for me is it was so triggering for me. I went home and I sat on the edge of the bed, and I literally woke up. You ever have that feeling like, oh my God, I'm late for work? I did that. But I actually wasn't late for work. But I'd fallen asleep in my uniform, so lucky for me, it was time to leave, but I was already in the same clothes and my uniform. And I don't know if anybody's fall asleep with your gun belt and vest on. Dude, man, you're like this. The next day, some other co-workers, hey man, you did an awesome job during that shooting. One thing I told the psychologist is I don't want any kind of award for this. I just did what I was supposed to do. I don't want any kind of recognition. I don't really want to discuss it. Well, not everybody got the memo. I chose not to go to the debrief because I didn't want to show emotion. I was too afraid. And I was like, if I go in there in this room and open up to people, one, that's scary. And two, how I was raised, you don't go in there and cry or show emotion. So I was like, hell no. So back at work, people were asking me about it. My personal life, I was depressed, lonely, and tired, but I lacked understanding what I was going through. I knew nothing about PTSD. The nightmares would come on, the movie would play, I would be back into a scene similar to it, not always the case. Sometimes I would shoot the guy and he wouldn't go down, sometimes my gun would jam, just random things would kick on. I couldn't shut the movie off, I couldn't turn the channel, and the more I tried, the worse it got. 3 months back at work, I'm sitting at Hagen's, it's 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and I'm talking to one of my coworkers. I'm like, hey, whatever happened to Keith and Sonny Mathers? They're brothers, they love to fight with the police, convicted felons several times over. I was like, we don't hear about them anymore. And Brian looks at me and goes, yeah, it's weird. When I used to work loss prevention, Sonny would come in and do grab and runs, and they would always fight with us at loss prevention. It's weird, we haven't heard of him. As soon as he finishes his sentence, Snohomish County Sheriff's deputies need assistance. Code 3. I switched my radio over to the channel, and it's the first time I've heard one of my brothers scream into the radio who needed some fucking help now. Luckily, the adrenaline dump was so strong that even though I was only like a mile down the road, I was like, where the hell am I going? And a senior officer knew where we were going. I followed him in to the apartment complex, and I ended up right where I parked my patrol car. Right to my left was where the scene was happening. I arrive at the apartment scene. I open the door. It's filled with pepper spray. The mom is standing in the kitchen just off, and I see a deputy with his radio cord wrapped around his neck, and he's got a red mark. I see one of his nightsticks laying on the ground, and these two deputies are fighting with everything that they have. They're exhausted. They are trying to punch, but it was just like there was nothing left. They were physically exhausted. This guy is wearing turquoise women's underwear, turquoise bra. He's got black fingernails, and he's got this long, greasy, wet hair, and he's got blood all over his face. And so I'm like, game on, right? So I had trained in MMA. One of my good friends was a pro fighter for a while, so prior to that I trained with a couple deputies from King County named Don Gula and Rob Bardsley, and my training just kicked in. And they do this a wrestling kind of program. And before I got into MMA, I did that, and so I was like, let's give it to them. So the fight, it's like when I jump in, like everybody just kind of like scoots out, and now it's he and I, and we're going at it. And if you've ever been in a fight before, you know how exhausting it can be. The other aspect of it is the room's filled with pepper spray. I hate pepper spray. Devil's juice. I'm allergic to it. So my eyes start going shut. I can't get a good breath of air into me. And I use the analogy of Chris and marathons because Chris has this ability to run these marathons. And Chris showed up one day at my MMA gym to come train, and within 5 minutes we're pulling Chris off the mat because he's so exhausted, right? Because different muscles, different things happen, the adrenaline pump. And I know it's on. Well, here's what the suspect looked like. If you took these two people and put them together, yeah, and put them in women's underwear, okay? You think that caused some nightmares? Oh, hell yeah. Right? So I remember watching this video that I want to show you. I learned this technique that was very effective in fighting for me, for ground fighting. I actually happened to watch this video like a week before this happened. Stacking, right there. Boom, punches. So what you see right here is almost identical to what's going on in this fight. And I get him in this ankle lock that I've submitted so many people before, and I want to take his back, right? And I put him in this ankle lock, and I feel his ankle kind of dislocate, and nothing happens. And he kicks me in my groin, and I'm like, well, I got one coming back at you with my Dana boots. And I do the biggest groin stomp I could possibly come up with. He's looking up at me, and he goes, "Rah." And right then and there, I said, oh shit. And I'm like, you know, there's no ref, you gotta keep going here. I start throwing up in my mouth. My eyes are going shut, I can't breathe, I can hear the mom. I can hear her say, you're gonna kill him. But he won't stop fighting. The last thing that I remembered before I kind of went and blacked out was I remember that touch recognition of my gun being grabbed. And I remember what they told me in the academy, and it went something like this, 80 or 85% chance you will die if the suspect gets that gun out of your holster. So I'm just like, holy, if I wasn't given 100%, I'm now given 110%, like, kind of thing. And I'm like, I gotta get some fresh air. So I drag this guy out, and I drag him outside the door, and all of a sudden, he just stops. And it was the first time in my life that I had my hands on somebody when they died. And I could feel that ending of energy take place. And it was this surreal moment for me where I kind of almost like looked down on the scene and saw myself, him, and another officer as I'm placing him in cuffs. Now, our dispatch had dispatched fire to for a pepper spray wash. So fire department got there, and I'm thinking to myself, great, I've just killed another person, what's this look like for my career? We were just throwing blows. You weren't supposed to die. How did this freaking happen again? And I remember looking over at the two deputies, and they're covered in blood, and they're scratched, and they're scraped, and they're trying to put their gear back together. And I remember the fire guy saying, looking at me, and he looks right at me and says, well, what did you do to this guy? What did you do to him? And I'm like, what? I lost it. The last thing I remember is that supervisor, she was like, Woody, it's okay, calm down. What I didn't know at the time, and the reason he didn't feel any pain, is because he had done cocaine, meth, and heroin. So his heart exploded. Okay? I didn't know that. And I was like, well, I didn't do anything lethal. Why did you die? I didn't know that until the autopsy came out. But I remember how bad that comment hurt me. Now I want to share this with you because I love firefighters, and I was a volunteer firefighter when I turned 18. That was the path I was going to go down. But he came to me later and he said, hey, Woody, I should have never said that to you, man. I didn't know what you had gone through. And I gave him a big hug, and it was all good. But it's important to remember that when you see somebody who's been through a traumatic event, you got to be very careful about what you say, because those comments can really stick with them. So my skin is covered in his blood, and I'm like, am I going to get some kind of a disease, from this? I had all those thoughts. I'm home again off work. I'm feeling alone. Like, who understands? Who do I have to talk to? And now this movie won't stop playing, and this one's way. It wasn't until I talked to Chris, and Chris goes, the reason why you struggled so much with that is because it was personal. You see, you had your hands on another human being when they passed away. The shooting, you were distance away, and it made sense to me. His brother vowed eye for an eye. I'm going to kill the cop who took my brother's life. Of course, in the newspaper obituary, and I don't know why I punished myself by even looking at it, but it showed him, as a loving father with the two kids that were taken away from him on his lap, and, rest in peace, you're going to be missed, kind of thing. I would go to bed and I'd have these nightmares, and I'd wake up gasping for air. And this picture right here kind of summarizes it all up. I felt like someone was grabbing my head, pushing me underwater, pulling me back up, and I would take a gasp of air, and then he'd put my head back down under again. And they would go on and on and on, over and over. I would wake up drenched in my own sweat. One time it was so bad that I woke up, and it was like 3:34 in the morning. I thought I wet the bed, but it was actually my own sweat. So I was reliving this trauma over and over again. I didn't understand what was going on, but this time the PD called me quicker than the last time, and they ordered me into the department to meet with the psychologist. And I arrived on scene and discovered that all three officers were going to talk to the psychologist at the same time, in the same room. It would be around an hour session, and it would be in the commander's office. Well, here's the commander's office, which is linked right to the patrol room. Now, who wants to go in there and open up and cry and share your feelings, when you're not supposed to, with two other guys, senior officers, and right outside is patrol when you exit the room? Not me. But the other officers, they refused to speak. But I wanted to talk. I wanted to heal. I was like, why am I experiencing this? And so I decided to just kind of like open up a little bit. It was a short session because the other two officers didn't want to talk. They just cut it short. 30, 40 minutes. I didn't really learn a whole lot other than how friendly psychologists really are. And they're not actually out to get you or document stuff on you to, kind of thing. So it was another good experience with the psychiatrist. But why would I go see a shrink, right? Because there's a stigma to that. You're weak. You don't need that. So I tried to fix it on my own. I stayed busy with projects around the house because I'm off work. I can't do anything. I talk about the 40th birthday analogy. I tried to drink my 40th birthday away. I still turned 40. Same thing. The more I used alcohol, it just made me more depressed. The nightmares didn't stop. Nothing changed in me. I couldn't run from my problem with vacations. I tried going on some vacations, and it just doesn't work. It didn't work. So I was able to reach out to Rob Bardsley, who met with me, and it helped some, being able to find somebody that had gone through some situations like I had. And so I have a lot of respect for him, and he was very, very kind and very gracious to meet with me. King County Sheriff guy, he's retired now, but one of my all-time heroes. So at home, I had just built this beautiful home, and my buddy does stucco, and he stuccoed it out for me, this big custom home, but I'm not happy in my own home. And I'm not healing, things are getting worse for me. And I come into work one day for my patrol shift. And on my work email, I get this message that my wife is having an affair on me. I didn't know what to do. So I found Janice. The dispatcher. And I said, I can't work the road right now, Janice. I show her the email and she says, kid, you don't have to. I got you. She called the sergeant. She said, Jeremy's not working. Call someone else in. He's done for the day. And the sergeant's like, well, he just started. She's like, he's done for the day, period. So I went home, showed my wife at the time the email. Things got worse. She was charged with assault for domestic violence and later computer trespass, 2nd degree. Hacked into my email at work. I lost peace in my own home. My wife at the time started talking, if you leave me, I'm going to commit suicide. Oh, did I mention she was pregnant at the time and I didn't know if my son was even mine? She threatened to terminate the pregnancy, so every day was a different emotional roller coaster for me. My marriage ends. I literally walk away from everything. I moved to a small studio apartment with a widow who lost her husband to cancer. He was a firefighter. And the housing market collapsed at the time. I couldn't sell my home. In the divorce paperwork, it said the house will be sold, but for a reasonable price. Well, my idea of reasonable is different than my ex's. So for a year and a half, I rented a place and paid half the mortgage. And I ended up with, I remember one time I was sitting in this small studio apartment. I had $27 in my bank account. And I'm thinking, okay, I got 4 more days before I get paid. But you know what really sucked? Is you have 2 bank accounts. You have your financial and you have your emotional. And I was overdrawn in my emotional bank account. And that's what hurt me the most. When I tried to retrain and grapple and try to get some peace, I'd have flashbacks of the fight. So we'd be sitting there training and the coach would go, Woody, what the hell? You just totally got dominated there, dude. What happened? And I couldn't open up at that time and tell them, look, I'm having a flashback. I would literally just stop fighting for a second, then, they'd take my back and choke me out and be like, okay, yeah, whatever. So I lost that. There's where so I moved from that 5 acres that overlooked the sound, that custom home, to this small studio that was connected to a house. But I really had a lot of respect for the lady because she said, you're going to get back on your feet someday. And she gave me a little bit of hope, a little bit of peace. It was kind of cool. In life, though, I thought I had enough. I can't take anything else. And I thought to myself, hey, you survived the shooting, you won the fight, but you're losing the battle. Who's really winning? Because it's not me, it's not this guy. So I ended up putting in for, I want to get off patrol now. I want to go to become an undercover narc. So they sent me to the DEA Academy. I'm down there, and it's like 2 weeks academy. And toward the end of the academy, my mom calls and gets a hold of me, and life said, oh, you thought this was over? Well, you're not done yet, kid. We got more that you got to deal with. Your dad has bone cancer and 6 months to live. This is one of the last photos I have with my dad. He was addicted to opiates and other pain pills. Didn't really want much to do with me. And I had this glimmer of hope that, hey, you've been diagnosed with bone cancer, you're probably 6 months to live, you're gonna wanna hang out with your son, right? Didn't happen. So now I'm dealing with that shit. But we're not done with it, with my story yet. God, the universe, she decided, you know what, Woody, we're going to humble you a little bit more because you have a lesson to learn. I ended up taking an overtime shift. My nature was to try to stay busy. WSP lost a stolen vehicle off I-5, did a bunch of hit and runs. I happened to be in the area again, and this vehicle passes me. I'm like, that's the vehicle. Shit, Canadian plates. He goes down a one-way street. I follow him down knowing it's a one-way street. I pull over off of the road, leaving him plenty of room to go by. He goes down, circles around, and I can see his car shifting. Faster and faster. I'm already unbuckled. I got 1 foot out of my car, and I realized he is coming at me head on. I get my foot in, I close the door just in time, bam! He hits me. He knocks me into the passenger seat. My elbow hits the rifle magazine, and all I can hear is this, "Boo!" and I'm seeing stars. He gets out of his vehicle, stumbling. I get out of mine, and the fight's on again. And he tells me, "Don't worry." As I'm subduing him, he says, "Don't worry, I'm with the FBI." And I'm thinking, well, good, I've always wanted to put an FBI agent under arrest. And this is but my elbow is screwed up. I have 3 herniated discs in my neck. Now I can't do any exercise. Now I can't grapple, even if I wanted to. I can't even go for a run. I'm off work again. It's Groundhog Day, right? I got no money to even go on vacation now. No magical fairy or personal trainer is showing up on my door. "Hey, Woody, time to get up out of bed. Come on, we're going to go do this. No, nothing. I literally became the author of my own misery. And not one thought I had at the time was around counseling.
I'm Rebecca Lewis. I'm a sergeant with the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office. And I'm here because wellness is very important to our agency, and I want the tools and resources to help, well, not only myself, but I'm on our peer support team, so I want to help the other officers and deputies that I work with on a day-to-day basis. I think now more than ever we need to normalize taking care of ourselves. It's the whole analogy of you got to put your own mask on before you help others, and we're so used to helping other people all the time that we start to neglect ourselves. So in order to not just survive in this job but thrive in it, we have to start taking care of ourselves and making that a priority.
Here's a photo of Officer Sutherland and I. He's actually a licensed minister. I just learned this last night, so he's available if you want a drunk minister at your thing. But I came across this, it was like a Facebook memory. It's like, and I was like, look at me. I look so happy on the outside, right? And so the backstory on this is the rest of us are doing shots of water, except for Chris. I'm filling his with vodka and tequila. I know, nice friend, right? Woody wouldn't a-hole. So Chris was having a good time. We're all sober. But it's all fake. It's all facade. Because in this video, I look like, or this photo, I'm smiling. I'm not happy at all. In fact, up here, I'm so messed up that, I just keep being this fake person. So I came across this quote. It said, if you're searching for that one person that will change your life, take a look in the mirror. I said, yeah, that's a great idea. But there's some people you can't fool, and that's what I figured out. You can't fool yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror. And my uncle and I are very close. He's like an older brother to me. And he asked me, how you doing? I said, I'm great. He wasn't fooled. And he told me, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. That was his comment back to me after I told him I was doing totally fine. He knew. So I knew that I would never become a champion until I learned to master my breaking point. And T.D. Jakes, who you just heard, said, you cannot become a champion until you have learned to master your breaking point. It's so true. But I thought to myself, how? Because like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. So I said, hey, I know I have no other option. There is no other option for me. I have to kill myself. Not in the way that you're thinking, but in this way. If you want to kill yourself, kill what you don't like. I had an old self that I killed. You can kill yourself too, but that doesn't mean you have to stop living. And so that really resonated with me. And so I said, I came across this other quote. It said, there comes a time in life when you just have to hit back. Eric Thomas. And that is me. I'm a warrior. You guys are warriors. So I said, okay, I'm going to come out swinging. Life knocked me down. I'm getting back up, but I'm coming out swinging. So I created a plan. I said, I'm going to get back. I'm going to go see a counselor, a psychologist, psychiatrist. I went to 6 or 7 different counselors before I found the right one. And boy, when I found the right one, it was a godsend. She taught me so much. She loved my work ethic. I went once a week for a year and a half. She was an out-of-network provider. Deborah Gibbons is her name. She since moved to Utah. But she was like a life coach to me. And she walked me through so many things, my whole perception, my whole feeling changed to where I looked in the mirror, I'm like, hey, you know what? You're not a bad-looking dude. You know what? You got this. Versus where I was before. I learned that when my PTSD would kick in or the anger would come, I knew during an argument, take 20 minutes, and my body's chemistry would change. And there was a way to enhance that with just using ice water. Ice water helps calm you down. I didn't know that. She taught me about dirty bombs. When people in patrol or other people would piss me off, I don't have to react. I can just let it hit the ground and let it explode, and I don't have to give it any energy. I had never experienced that kind of control and power before. She taught me the impact of my childhood life related to my current behavior. I had no clue. I didn't connect the dots. I do now, looking back, but I didn't at the time. She taught me about the mother of all triggers being the holidays, because things were chaotic in my house. So during the holidays, you know, Woody, you're going to want to drink a little bit more, or someone's going to piss you off, or, you know, she said, actually, you don't even have to show up for your family functions if it bothers you that much. She gave me that, and I was like, what? That's my family. I have to go. No, you do not. You do not have to hold your hand out and get slapped and be spit on again. You don't have to go through that. It was so empowering. Then I met my current counselor now, who is trained in what's called lifespan integration. Oh my God. What a gift she gave me. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. It takes work. You have to go back and revisit these events. You create this timeline and you go back and revisit these events in your life. But the peace that it creates in your own mind is amazing. So if anybody out here is struggling and you're looking for some relief, I recommend lifespan integration because it's really helped my PTSD immensely. You know, as I started to change, others did too. I walk in one day for patrol, and the chief is there at 5:55 a.m. And he walks in, hey, Woody. I said, hey, Chief. He said, I'm here to talk to you. What do you mean? He said, I just want to tell you, I've seen a change in you. I like what I'm seeing. I felt compelled to get in here today and meet with you. Other coworkers that I worked with saw a change in me. The commander who knows me very well as one of my field training officers said, Woody, you've made such a positive change in your own life. Would you be willing to speak to the new guys coming in? And I said, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to. Because we all think we have it under control until we get punched in the face. But you know what was most important to me? Was when I got home and my wife said, did you see what your daughter posted about you on social media? I said, no. Summarize it. Find a successful person and mirror them. My biggest motivator and my successful person is my dad at Brothers in Healing. I followed in his footsteps, and the second I did so, I pulled myself out of the dark pit I was in. I'm so thankful, she spelled it wrong, that he's in my life and showed me what it meant to be successful. Wow. Winning, right? Now, what I didn't share with you is my daughter lost her dad. He was loading up his boat at Moses Lake, and he died of a heart attack like that. I held her in my arms until she had no tears left to cry. It was during Halloween, and she had a sleepover. I had to call the parents because my wife couldn't do it, and I had to say, hey, we've had a family emergency. Can you come pick up your kid first thing in the morning? We let her sleep, and that day I held her in my arms until she had no tears left to cry, and she looked up at me and she said, at least I still have you. You talk about wanting to make a change in your life, not just for me, but for my family, for this girl. I'm so proud of her. One thing I learned on my journey is trauma is widespread, and I came across this: 70% of adults, 223.4 million people. We are hurting as first responders. More officers died by suicide than in the line of duty deaths in 2017. This was a study that was done in, from police roll call or something, and study has found that little has been done to address PTSD and depression in responders, even though they are 5 times more likely than civilians to suffer from symptoms. And then I came across this. December 30th of last year, 243 first responders commit suicide. That is crazy. We are hurting. We have to open up and start talking about this kind of stuff. We're trained to run towards and confront danger, yet we run from the threats in our mind, and that is so true. I didn't want to talk about my childhood and how I never gained my dad's acceptance and the things that happened to me, but it came out in counseling. It's directly correlated with me. I talked about it. It helped. But man, I told my counselor, I'd rather be on the SWAT team and go do a high-risk search warrant than have to open up and talk. And it's crazy to me how my mindset was at the time. Because it's crazy, because if you have a toothache, who do you go to? You go to the dentist. Your car breaks down and you go to the mechanic. So if your computer isn't working right up here, why is that so odd to go seek help? It's really going to be up to you. Don't look for a personal trainer, magical fairy, or the department to go, hey, we just want to give you some mental health training and we want you to start going. It's unlikely it'll happen. They'll spend thousands of dollars on training you how to kill, but once you do, it's going to be up to you. I used to look at this photo and go, yeah, that's a good day. And now I look at it and go, all those hours we spent at the range on the SWAT team, I did 12-year SWAT, it would have been really awesome if I took half of those empty shells and let them represent a minute in counseling to balance out what I was being trained to do.
Hi, my name is Chris Sutherland. I'm the other half of Brothers in Healing with Jeremy Wood. And I just got to say that this conference, the First Responder Conference, has been incredible. Like my partner Woody, we experience stuff all the time and we didn't know where to go. This has been such a great outreach for us. It helped us communicate with other people and come in touch with them also. First Responder Conference and Sean Thomas, thank you so much. Hopefully this works. This is my 911.
What's your location? Copy. I just got information of a possible shooting at the high school in cafeteria. Yes, Thomas here at Marysville, something at 108. I think they reported a possible shooting in the cafeteria. You're on site right now. Beer Club, Marysville Hilton Cafeteria, notification.
So this is my route. Obviously not the same day, but this is where I was. I took a camera just kind of show you guys what I was doing. So while you're watching this, I could not hear my radio call in my ear because of the kids screaming, everybody running, the fire alarm, And it wasn't until I got to the front of my first office where I heard it, and excuse my French, but I think out loud, I said, holy fuck, this is real. So I took off running straight across our commons. Now when you see this, when it gets up there, there's 3 doors, one on the left, one in the middle, and one on the right. It goes to the old ASB. For whatever reason, I ran right through the center door. And as I run through the door, I come across the most horrific thing that, even to this day, that I've ever seen. We've all seen death, we've all seen blood, we've all seen everything, but I'm going to tell you it's different when you see bodies of kids laying right there. When I walked in, I couldn't even step anywhere. It was literally right as I walked in. As soon as I opened the door, it was right there. As soon as I get in there, there's one of our teachers who's brand new. She's kneeling on the ground, talking to one of the girls. And I said, what happened? Where are you here? She says, he was a shooter. And I remember looking. And I know law enforcement, we have a thing where a lot of times we don't like to say the person's shooter's name. No one brings it up. I'm going to tell you what, I am different. I knew this kid. My wife went to school with his dad. This kid was actually a very popular kid, a very good kid, who obviously had something going on in his life that none of us will ever know. And so when I was sitting there and on his back, and Jalen's face was looking straight up at me, obviously deceased, I shook my head and I was in disbelief. I said, there's no way that you did this. And she said, he's the one. I said, there's no way. I could not wrap my brain around it. So I remember looking for the gun. I'm like, there's no gun. And all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I look probably about 20 feet away. And here's Nate Hatch doing like an army crawl. So he's crawling on his stomach. And as I look at him, obviously he's going to die. If you saw his face, his head wound. And I remember walking over and going, dude, you're going to be okay. Just stop. Stop where you're going right now. You're going to be fine. And I remember at that moment thinking, and now I'm lying to this kid. I'm sitting here lying to you because there's no way you're going to be okay. But I knelt down and I said, just stop, just hold on. We're going to get Aid in here. And I remember yelling at Aid. And I'm going to say some things. Firefighters, I apologize to some of them, and I share this just because I want people to know if you go through this moment. I was pissed off at the firefighters that day. And the reason I was pissed off is because they were there. And I remember going, get Aid in here, get Aid in here, it is secure, get Aid in here. I actually walked up and I looked out the window and I could see the fire trucks. And I later learned there was a communication error. But I remember just saying, get in here. Aid got in there. Started working on the kids, and I knew at the moment, but all I kept hearing was black, 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 black. And we actually got in a little argument, I think. And I'm like, they're not black. Their shit's moving. Their chest is moving. Help them. Do something that they can be helped. Now I didn't know then that whatever they were doing, they were deceased basically. It was just the body shutting down. The paramedics, the fire department, they knew that. I didn't. So as they're moving everybody out, the sergeant comes in and he goes, Chris, we still have to handcuff him. And I remember, whatever. So I had to grab Jalen, move him over, put the handcuffs on. There was the gun, sitting underneath his body. I grabbed it, and I remember turning away and trying to just, you know what, okay, I gotta make this safe for whatever reason. And I could not physically do it. I handed it off to one of my partners. And then I said, what about her? And the firefighter said, I said, do you want me to move him? I said, yes. So again, I grabbed Jalen by both arms, dragged him about 10 feet through all the mess to get him out of there because he's obviously deceased. And then they work on him. Or they take the kids out. I remember walking out, poking my head, and I could just see a sea of red and blue. I felt totally alone up until that moment. Firefighters were in there, my partners were in there, but I felt alone, and I looked out. It was one of the best things I've ever seen because there's hundreds of police cars out there, and I remember that moment going, you know what, I'm gonna be okay. So we're going through everything. My buddy Arlington, Seth, was the SRO. He heard the call, drove straight down there. Give me your keys. Gave my keys. He went and did his thing. So now we've got the cafeteria surrounded. We've got every door. We've looked in the cabinet, everything. I mean, I was 100% sure even though there's one shooter, there's two, that this was an isolated thing. Yeah, we still had to go do the whole thing, searching. So I walked outside, and we had a patrol car right up front. And I'll just show these pictures. This is, I blurred it out, but that's how close it was. So as I walk outside, I see the patrol car, my sergeant, and they're starting up their command post. And I said, Sergeant, I need to go on one of those teams. This is my school, they're my kids, it's my staff. I'm going to go search and do what I have to do. And he said, no. Never in my life have I ever wanted to punch my sergeant in the face so bad. I've since somewhat apologized, but at that moment I did, and it took every ounce of me not to. Now I realized real quick that that was the best decision that was made at that moment, because I didn't need to go search, I didn't need to be out there, I needed to be here where I could help get the resources because I knew the school. So now I'm walking around and I'm asking people, okay, do you need to take a break? Do you need this? What do you need? Bathrooms here. And we're going around. The SMART team shows up and hey, we need a place to go. So I take them and said, hey, what about the staff lounge? We can use this. So they set up their thing. Now this is going on for hours. And I feel like I'm not doing anything, like I'm just useless. And I'm walking around and not many people are coming up to me. And kind of just walk aimlessly. And then Seth comes up to me again, he goes, hey dude, you all right? And I go, I have no idea what just happened. This does not make sense. These kids didn't deserve this, I didn't deserve this, no one deserves this. And he goes, do you need anything? I said, you know, I haven't eaten today. Would you go get me something to eat? And he goes, absolutely. I don't know why, I don't eat McDonald's. But I said, will you go to McDonald's and get me a double cheeseburger meal? He says, yeah, I'll go do it. So he gets in his car and drives down along Tomahawk Drive. I turn around and I look, and here's this big fucking truck. I'm sorry if I offend you, but I'm going to swear a little bit. There's this big truck, and here's admin, here's other people, and I might offend admin, I'm sorry. But there are people who just got here, and they're eating pizza. And I remember just going, are you kidding me? You have all of us who've been here forever. So I walk over, hey, can I have a piece of pizza? Yeah. So I eat one because Seth just went to get my McDonald's. I didn't want to be full. So I get it, he comes back and hands me my bag of McDonald's. I said, dude, thank you, gave me a hug. I walk down and I sit down in my patrol car, which is parked right up front. My radio's off, everything's dead silent. It's the first time that I've sat down. I get in my car and it's dead silence. And I felt everything starting just to drop. And I was wearing a jumpsuit and my cell phone was right here. Now I didn't know I had a cell phone all day. I forgot about it. And I sit down and all of a sudden I feel like my food's here, so I pull it up and I was about to lose it. I don't know why, but on the very top one was my wife. And it just said, are you okay? She said I texted back, I don't remember. She said, I wrote yes. So now I grab my food and I open it up. And I look and I just, in my mind, I want you to picture me swearing out loud in my patrol car. I'm saying, Seth, I would have fucking bought you your own fucking hamburger. Why did you eat one of my hamburgers? I don't know if you know where I'm going with this. But I open my hamburger and it's a double cheeseburger. But in my mind, I ordered the 2 cheeseburger meal. But my emotions, I was so mad, angry, I was going to go kick his ass down. It allowed me to actually laugh for 1 second. And I understood, okay, you know, you don't know what's going on in your brain right now, so just let's go. So I ate. I get done, I get up, I'm walking around, again, hours. And I finally go to my commander and I go, Mark, can I go home? I'm not doing anything. I'm no good here. Everything's done, taken care of. He goes, yes, go talk to Commander Wade. So I walk on the other side of the parking lot. Commander Wade, Mark said I go home and I got to check with you. Yep, sign out. So I get in my car, again, dead silent, and I feel it again. I said, you know what, Chris, just go home. So I drove down my long Tomahawk Drive. Now, normally every time I drive away, there's kids, there's cars, there's dogs being walked. There was nothing. It was a ghost town. All the other patrol cars were gone. I get to the end. I take a left on 108th, east. I get to our east road, where if you take it, you go back to our football field, and there's Derek Oates, who's got the roadblock there. And I stopped, rolled in my window. How you doing, Chris? He said, I don't know. I mean, I can't put into words what just happened. And he said something, and I remember thinking, up to this time, up to this day, you would not see me cry in front of you. I would not do it. And I felt it, and I said, sorry, dude, gotta go, roll my window up. That's the last thing I remember up until I get home.
I'm Chief Natalie Carricker with Brewster Police Department. The reason I attended the First Responders Conference is to obtain knowledge and resources to bring back to my agency. I think it's important to have these. Began law enforcement in 2001 as a police officer, and I was always told back then, just keep it in your head, don't say anything. Over time, I realized through different instances within our agency, it's a good idea to attend this conference and listen to the professionals discuss the importance of these topics for first responders. It's a great conference, and I'm hoping other agencies attend and then bring this information back to provide to their employees, because employees are very important.
Now I'm going to tell you, I continued down 108th for about another half mile. I went north on 67th Avenue for about 3 miles. It's a 2-lane road. I turned right up 172nd. I turned into Glen Eagle, my house. I turned right, I turned left, I backed my patrol car in, and I went through my front door. But my recollection, even to this day, is leaving Derek Oates, and now I'm at my bedroom door. Now I open my bedroom door, and across from it is my bed. And there's my wife and my daughter sitting on the bed, looking at me with this look I'll never forget. They said, do you want to talk about this? I said, no. I don't remember getting undressed. Next thing I remember, I'm standing in the shower, my head against the window, my head against the wall, and I just remember the water, the warm water. And this is where everything dropped. I cried, and I sat there and blamed myself. Why did I let this happen to you guys? This is my fault. I was not in the cafeteria this day. I'm in that cafeteria every day. This is me. This is 100% on me. And it hurt. I get out and I fell asleep. Somehow I got out and I fell asleep. Now I'm going to tell you, my wife finally heard me speak in Idaho a little while ago, and we were driving home, and she says, you didn't just go and take a shower. And I go, yeah, I did. She goes, no, you opened the door, and I said, do you want to talk about this? And you said, no, I'm going to take the fucking dog for a walk. So I took the dog for a walk for 45 minutes. But I still don't remember that. That has not been unlocked. And then I took my shower.
I want to say, if you or somebody you know that you work with is having difficulties, please get them to one of these conferences. Help them get to that help. Don't try and be like I was, trying to survive and not live. I wanted to live. Now I'm living.
So that's that first day. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on. I get up the next morning. Now I have coffee with this guy Frank. He's in his 80s, and I met him every morning for coffee. The sweetest guy in the world. And what he said to me, I hope when I'm in my 80s that I don't care what I say, because I know he didn't mean anything ill will. He's just in his 80s. So he didn't think about it. So we sit down for coffee, and he goes, oh, Chris, what a shitty thing that happened to you yesterday. Bolted out of the coffee shop. Had to go back to my car, sat and cried for 10 minutes, came back in, I'm sorry, Frank. Julie talked to him, what's going on? Now this went on forever. You go through Mary's, I don't know if you've ever seen it. If I saw a red ribbon, I lost it. The following week, the kids wanted us to give the school back to them because we took the school from them. So there was an assembly thing in our cafeteria, in our gymnasium, and I said, no, I'm not going. They said, no, we want you to be there. Now, I didn't want to go because, in my mind, I'm the one to blame. And I didn't want to go there and be, you know what, you're a piece of crap. You let this happen to these kids. They said, no, you have to come. I said, I will do it, but I'm not going to be in uniform. So my wife and I drive there. I pull in. Ann Carlson, who's our security, who went right in with me, said something to me, and I sat and I cried. I said, I'm going to go park. I get there, my buddy Tony Hatch was there. His son was in the cafeteria. Just such a good kid, such a good family, related to Jalen's family. And I sat and embraced him for about probably 5 minutes. And I said, dude, I gotta get out of here. So my wife and I walked around through the back door, because I had keys. I snuck up into the middle, I don't remember, where no one knew who I was. But I remember sitting there listening to them talk. And I felt like every eye was looking at me, even though I was looking down. And the feeling I had was everyone in there was saying, Chris, this is your fault. You were not there. How could you even show your face? And then I'm listening to people talk about the positives, about the good that happened. Nothing good happened. And I'm like, I don't understand this. So it gets done. And then one of the school security managers comes up and goes, hey, Denise Hatch wants to talk to you, Nate Hatch's mom. Right. No, not doing it. No, she really wants to. So I gave in. I walked down out of the gym into this room, and here's Nate's mom, the only survivor, and I can't remember who else, a couple people, and they walked up. And the way that they hugged me and said thank you. And now they're telling me that I saved their son. I didn't save their son. But it was one of the most remarkable things that ever happened to me. I actually went home feeling somewhat good. Fast forward now a couple weeks, we finally have a debrief. First time I've ever been to a debrief. Big circle, like, anybody want to start? I'm like, I might as well, it's mine. So I actually got to tell my story, and I'm going to tell you, it was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. When I got done, you know they say, white man can't jump, I can't jump. I would have dumped the ball as soon as I got done with that probably. Because I felt like everything was lifted off my shoulders. During this whole time, the shrink that was there, he did something. He wrote on the wall, and it was the wrong wall, and it was actually not what he was supposed to write on. I remember thinking, you know what, I like you. Because you just screwed up. We all screw up. I walked up to him and I said, hey, are you taking new patients? Because I'd like to come talk to you. Well, that's where I learned to say that, that's when I learned that we're not patients. He goes, you're not a patient. Yes, I will take you. He goes, you know, but I'm all the way down in Seattle, and I can find you somewhere up closer to where you live. And I said, well, with all due respect, I don't need to come see you every day, so I'm not going to drive to Seattle every day. I don't know, a month, 2 months, I didn't know what I was looking at. And he says, sure, that started my journey. Once I started doing that is where I got to where I was able to speak without trying. I'm actually getting better. You should have seen when I first did this one. I think it took me 2 hours. But it opened up doors for me that are unreal. Now, I'm going to show you up here. Like I told you, I have a different feeling. I'm going to tell you that I have a tattoo on my neck, finally, for my memorial from the MP. And I have a star for every kid. And because of my heart, and I know that that kid right there was so troubled, that what he did was one of the most horrible things that a human being can do. But that was a child. And we don't know. And I have a tiny, tiny star on my neck for him. Because that's where my heart is. I was able to say goodbye to him and these other kids. Here's what he had, 40 caliber handgun. He had rounds in there. I don't know why he reloaded. This is a seating chart. I don't know if you guys have seen it. This is right outside the window. I've shown this is his aim of fire. Every one of those shots was a headshot. These are our beautiful kids who did not make it. I still have not had a chance to meet and talk with Nate again to this day. He's still not ready. Yet his wife, his mom and I are great friends. We meet all the time. So I already went through this. Now I'm at home. I plan on going to work the next day. And I don't remember this because Jeremy comes to my house and he's the one who told me this. He comes to my door and knocks on the door. And he's got a good story. He goes, you opened the door, Chris, and you were a ghost. And I looked right through him. He said, don't come back to work until you're ready. So I had that mindset now, okay, what can I do? What can I make myself? Well, as I talked about everything, the guilt I still have guilt, but I know that I don't own that guilt, but yet I still have a part of it in my heart. I go to school again, now I'm hyper vigilant. Every backpack has a gun, every kid there wants to shoot somebody, and I'm just like this. But that kind of goes away, and you show the kids that, you know what, you're in charge, and that you're still here for them. And I had the questions, what are you going to do? August 2017, I just showed a good buddy of mine our new floor at the basketball court, because I coach basketball there too. I played there, so I coached. And we get done, I go back in my car. And I sit down, I'm looking on the screen, okay, what am I going to do? Well, as I'm sitting in my car, all of a sudden, my vision goes like this. For no reason, and it goes black. And I'm sitting there going, my eyes, I'm like, what is happening to me? I can't see. And now I'm starting to sweat. And my heart is just racing. And I'm getting dizzy, and I'm like, Nate, I need you to come back here right now. So he does. 10 seconds later, I've started, I look, and my microphone's down here. My microphone is going like this. So I had to close my eyes and go to the grab, and I just said, start me aid at MP. I remember going over, they get there, they pull me out of the car because I'm almost out, put me on a stretcher, drive me to the hospital. They thought I was having a heart attack. Everything turned out fine. I make an appointment with a brand new doctor the next day. I kind of give her a real brief estimate of what happened to me through this. She goes, you know what, you had a secondary reaction to your PTSD, whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, what? So then I call my shrink. I go meet him the next day, tell him, he goes, this is what happened. And I'm like, holy crap, I don't get this. This was a couple years later. So time passes. I'm in my office again last year, this year. I think it was this year. I can't remember now. And I'm talking with a student, all of a sudden I feel the same thing coming over me. But now I'm like, oh shit, I know what that is. So I say, excuse me, I get up, start breathing, I walk into another office, call aid again just to make sure, and it was just another one. But I learned from now, okay, I can get up, I can breathe, I can get over this. What I just talked about is what got me to where I'm at right now. To being able to give up. I would never spoke in front of anybody, talked about my feelings. You can ask my wife that. But I had things going on before this, like every one of you in here. I'm not a special person. I don't know, I'm able to get up here and share, and I love doing this. This is my brother Adam. He was a year younger than me, served in the military, went to college, had a wife, died of brain cancer at 29 years old. Last time I saw him, when he was 29, he came to watch my kid's soccer game from Chicago. This whole quarter of his head was gone from all the surgeries. I'm still, to this day, trying to deal with why God took him and not me. So I had that going on. This is my family. My son, my wife, and my daughter. My son is 24 years old right now. My son has been a heroin addict since he was 16 years old. My son Trey was getting arrested almost weekly by my own officers in Marysville. His awesome graffiti, which no one would understand, Trey S. I mean, it was S. Trey. They're not going to figure out that you put your last letter of your last name before your first name. All over the town. I remember the first time I got a call. I called Danny Youth Center because he did thousands of dollars of damage. And when they called me over and said, Chris, you need to come, I was working this night. They said, Chris, you need to come over and see this. Him and 3 of his buddies, and we find meth on him, we find marijuana. I called Danny Youth Center and said, you have to take these kids and my son. Because they have to learn a lesson. Because I'm not going to live with myself if I don't treat my own kid like I'm going to treat someone else's kid. And so they took him. Sometimes I question now, was that the best thing to do? Because my son basically became institutionalized. He has done so much time in jail, but it's all because of drugs. I'm telling you right now, a happy point of this is my wife and I are driving down to spring break again. He's down in Palm Springs. He just completed his 11th inpatient treatment. He's been clean since October. He's got 2 jobs. And I get to go down to Palm Springs and spend there in the sun. And I am so happy, but yet I still live with this every day waiting for that phone call again. My wife and I had already planned his funeral prior to all this because we knew we were going to get that call. My daughter, she's a third-year nursing student at UW. So you're talking about a pendulum right there. I don't love anyone less or any one of them more. But we all have these struggles that people don't know. People would not, they didn't know that I had an addict son, that I've talked to churches about this. He's been homeless. He's slept many times in the city, under schools, under bridges. And I know he's out there. He's called us many times. I'm jumping off the bridge and I'm killing myself tonight, Mom. So listen to me, guys. We're not weak for seeking help. And that's what I've learned. And I even tell this to the kids. When you cry, you show strength. And remember I told you guys, I never cried for anybody. Not anybody. And now when I do it, to me, it's a show of strength that I can do this. And I pass this on to kids, to you guys, to everybody. I've also learned, L&I is not your friend. So my L&I claim got denied twice because they can't prove that what's been happening to me is because of the school shooting. Even though I got documentation from so much stuff. Now I have been a little lazy because I do have a representative who really wants to work with me, and I know that we've passed the law now and all that. I just got to get out my butt and resend everything. But I'm sitting here going, is $400 out of my pocket worth this fight when the bill's already passed? I've also learned this, and this is for supervisors in here, is I was an open book at work. You asked me, I'm going to tell you. I could not sleep last night. Yep, I'm going to my shrink. This is happening to me. This is what I'm feeling. And whether it's true or not, I don't know. But my perception now is like, this is why I believe that we don't want to seek help. Because I feel like some of that's being used against me now. And it's sad. We need to be there for each other. And if something is going wrong, we need to sit down and talk. But we can't say, you know what, that person now is messed up. We got to figure something else that's to do with that person. So I want that to go through. That's all I got, guys. And I want to say I apologize. This has never happened. We've done this so many times, and I know it really sucks. And you guys we're in the moment, and we want to move on. And now you guys can't have a break. But I am so humbled that you guys sat here and listened to my story. And if I helped one person, I know that I've done my job. So thank you guys so much.